Good morning, everyone. I'm so thankful that y'all could join me once again on a beautiful day. Today we're going to be discussing Genesis 25 and 26. We left off yesterday with the love story between Isaac meeting Rebekah, and that concluded Genesis 24. Let's just begin 25. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. In total, Abraham had 3 wives, the first being Sarah, the second being Hagar, and now we're told about the last, which is Keturah. And she bare him Zimron, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashuram, and Letushim, and Lumen. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abidah, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. But unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country, which would be modern-day Iraq and Iran. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 160 and 15 years, which would make him 175 years old. Then Abraham gave up the ghost, meaning he died, and died in a good old age, an old man, and full of years, and was gathered to his people. God had promised him that he would live to a good old age, and this is God's promise coming to pass, as it always does. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zoar, the Hittite, which is before Mamre. Remember, we read about them in Genesis 23, how Abraham made a deal to bury Sarah there. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahairoi. If you'll recall, that's where he was pretty much standing. Isaac was pretty much standing whenever he first seen Rebekah riding on the camel with the servant of Abraham. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbil, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Messah, Hadar, and Tema, Jeter, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. All of these became princes. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He lived to be 137. And he gave up the ghost, and died, that's what that means, and was gathered unto his people. And they dwelled from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria. And he died in the presence of all his brethren. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, that's how we know he's 40, to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. He prayed to God, begging God to open her womb. And Rebekah his wife conceived. She got pregnant. And the children struggled together within her. Okay, now we're starting to get into the beans and taters of the whole message. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. She's basically asking, why are they struggling? It seems like they're fighting all the time. You ever seen the woman will say, oh, the baby just jumped. Well, these were like kicking one another. Yeah. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. and the one shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Meaning these two would breed the beginning of two nations. They would be the beginning of them. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now these were not identical twins, these were fraternal twins. The difference being fraternal twins are dizygotic, meaning that they developed from two different eggs fertilized by two different sperm cells, while identical twins are monozygotic. In essence, they developed from a single fertilized egg that split. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now, this is why many believe that Esau, was red-headed and a hairy man. Esau's name, actually, it's in the sense of handling someone. It means rough, like he's a rough guy, and he grew up rough, as we see very shortly. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So Isaac was 60, he was 40 when he married Rebekah. So this is 20 years she's been barren. And Rebekah was probably, this is just a guess, she was probably around 37, mid-30s, early 40s, around this time, I would gather. To which that age does make sense, because that's right around the time when their biological clock, as far as baby making, is ticking out, it's running out. So you can see the desperation in Isaac to wish to inquire of God, please help us. Whereas with most couples, they don't ever have to pray about it. They just do the deed, and then that's it. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. This is the second man that we're told of it's actually noted that he's a good hunter. Nimrod and Esau are both called good hunters. And it kind of makes you wonder about the warlike state of Esau. He was probably quite warlike, or at least he would have been good at war, at going to war, which would explain why later on Jacob is so frightened of him. He's very timid about coming back around Esau. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. See, the dad loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. I don't personally believe that parents should have favorites, but I guess you can't help it sometimes. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. So Jacob, he's mixing up a soup, and Esau, he's coming back from the field, and he's tired. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee. Feed me, I'm begging you. So he said, with that same red pottage, for I am faint, tired. Therefore was his name called Edom. Edom in the Hebrew means red. It actually means red. And it's more alluding to the pottage than it is his hair color or anything of the sort. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. Now, birthright was because Esau was born first, then he had the right to the inheritance of his father. This was the birthright. Very, very important. He must have been a very young, very adventurous fella, whimsical, eccentric, because to give this away is just the most horrible thing. But in this instance, we see the difference between Esau and Jacob, and why it was so important that Jacob and Rebekah do what they do later on. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? He means, if I die, what am I going to do with the birthright anyway? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. As you'll see right here, in case you don't know, lentils, small legumes that are inexpensive to buy and highly nutritious. It's a member of it's like peas. It's kind of like a member. It's from the pea family. In the New Testament book of Hebrews, we read about the heart of Esau and the importance of the event in which came later, whenever Rebekah and Jacob deceive Isaac. But we'll get to that later. Hebrews 12. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Profane person is a wicked man, heathen. It actually, in the Greek, it likens it to a heathen or a wicked person. For you know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. So we're told right here how Esau later regrets what he did, and he weeps over it even, and how he, for a bowl of soup, gave up such an important. Esau represents the worldly man so much, the short-sightedness of the worldly man. Just today, I seen how during this coronavirus pandemic, I seen how there were Hollywood stars like what's her name? She played Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, Will Ferrell, the guy that played Incredible Hulk and Avengers. I seen all these celebrities on Twitter. They made this little video of John Lennon doing it, all of them each doing segments of John Lennon's Imagine. And that song begins. Now, these are rich Hollywood stars, they're all about themselves. They're blinded to reality. And they begin the song, they sing the entire thing, and oh man, they're crying. They're really sensitive. And imagine there's no heaven, is how it starts out. It's easy if you try. And then no hell or something beneath us, and it's talking about no religion. Get rid of God, get rid of all these things. Oh, and it's just, they're so heartwarming. They remind me of Esau. These idiots remind me of Esau, how they're so short-sighted. We're not really told much about Isaac. Whenever it comes to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we're told very little about Isaac, but this is the part where we're told the most about him in this one chapter. Genesis 26, and there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. There was another famine, not related to the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. So Isaac travels from his camp in Beersheba and goes to Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him, and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. He's speaking of Gerar. Sojourn in this land, dwell in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries. And I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. If you'll notice, God's repeating that over and over and over again to Abraham, now to Isaac, and he just keeps repeating this thing over and over, just like we do with how Christ is coming back. You hear about it all the time, all the time. Well, eventually it comes to pass. And whenever it does, we shouldn't be shocked, because God, He's promised it over and over and over again through the scriptures, through the radio, through preaching, through church, through you name it. You'll hear about it all the time. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister, just like his dad Abraham did to the same man, mind you. They asked him about Rebecca, who we already know is beautiful, and she's much younger than Sarah was with Abraham. But they say that she's beautiful. She is my sister, for he feared to say, she is my wife, lest, said he, the man of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. So just like his dad, he's lying as well, with the same lie, to the same man. I would say that you talk about frustrated. Abimelech's like, I can't trust anybody. Next verse. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. Sporting basically just means laughing. They were joking, cutting up, flirting, doing a little bit of flirting. But there a long time. We're not told how long that they were there, but apparently it was quite a while. And which kind of makes you wonder, did Abimelech not try anything during this time, or did he had multiple wives now. So it was easy to, I guess, avoid doing that. But the king looks out the window and he sees Isaac and Rebekah flirting with each other. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And how sayest thou, she is my sister? And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, lest I die for her. He's saying, I don't. He said, that's my only reason, because you would probably have killed me over her. And Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltiness upon us. Meaning, one of the men within the palace might have laid with her, had sexual relations with her. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Because he no doubt remembered the dream that God had given him, the terrifying dream. We discussed that. But the terrifying dream that God had given him concerning Abraham and Sarah. So he said, no man touch him, don't bother him. He wants to keep in good spirits with the Lord. And because Abimelech, he refers to the Lord as the Lord. And we'll see that just right here in a few verses. Then Isaac sowed in that land and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great. He became great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. So not only was he already wealthy from Abraham, but he became even greater than Abraham, his father, and even very great, as you'll see. And remember, they called Abraham a mighty prince, for he had possession of flocks and possession of herds, and a great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. Now, this was at a time of great famine, so great a famine that people were journeying to these kingdoms. They weren't staying by themselves because they were starving, but they went into a place where they could trade and have work, if nothing else, and possibly get food. So the people, the Philistines, envied him because you see all this wealth. You see this today with socialists. They can't stand the rich. If you're rich, part of the 1, 2, 3%, then they hate you just because you've got more than they've got, and they want to pass laws in order to take more from you than give it to them. That's exactly what they want. Just give it to them. Free stuff, free stuff, free stuff. And we're seeing this today, and as well as in the narrative. Also notice how it reads, the Philistines envied him. They weren't jealous of him. It's said of God that he's a jealous God. It doesn't say he's an envious God. There's worlds of differences between these two, and people treat them interchangeably. They shouldn't, because they mean different. To envy someone is to want what they have. To be jealous is to not want them to have what you already have. See what I'm saying? So you already own this thing and you're jealous over it. You don't want anyone else to have it. It's yours. That's jealous. With envy, you see someone else having something, you want it, so you want to take it. That's envy. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. They filled up all these wells because they didn't like him. They began to hate him, and they began to fill all these wells up with earth. Wells were very important back then, and even today they're very important. People still, some of the best water I've ever drank's been out of a well, and it's actually a very difficult process in order to complete. You can read right here, how long did it take to dig a well in Bible times? Digging the well took 15 men 90 days.
How to dig a well. People have been digging wells since prehistoric times. If you're hoping to add a well to your backyard by doing it yourself, there are several ways, both ancient and modern, to make sure you never go thirsty. You will need a pick, a shovel, a bucket, stones, a pipe fitted with screen, a driver, a drill rig, and a pump. Optional, soft soil. Step 1. Dig a hole in the ground using a pick and shovel. Use a bucket to remove the soil. Step 2. Continue digging until you reach the water table. Water will then start filling the bottom of the hole. Step 3. Line the hole with stones to prevent the sides of the well from collapsing. Step 4. Try driving a small diameter pipe, fitted with a filtering screen at its base, into the ground as a less labor-intensive alternative to hand digging. Driven wells, like hand-dug ones, can only reach shallow water, and both require soft soil. Step 5. Hire a truck-mounted drill rig if you want to reach water below the water table. Drill rigs can drill more than 1,000 feet into the ground, and a pump can then be installed to bring water to the surface. Now you've got your own source of water without depending on city pipes.
So now maybe you can understand why they would be so angry over these wells. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, the king of Gerar, said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we are. If you'll recall God's promise to multiply the power and the seed of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, you begin to see this everywhere that they go. Even whenever Joseph brings them into Egypt, Jacob and all of his brethren brings them into Egypt, they actually grow so mighty that the Pharaoh becomes worried about them. In the millions they grow. And Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. So he goes into a valley in Gerar. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. Esek, the word itself, means dispute or contention. So he named it that because they argued with him about it. And they digged another well, and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. You can tell by the meanings of these names how the tension was beginning to escalate between the herdmen of Gerar and Isaac's herdmen. You can really tell the tension because as Esek means contention or dispute, an argument, Sitnah actually means extreme hate, extreme hatred, like they're really everyone's getting mad and starting to come to a boiling point. And he removed from thence, he went away from there as well, and digged another well. 3 months it took to dig a well. 3 months. Still takes that if you want to hand dig it and such. 15 men, 3 months. And he removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not. They didn't argue with him about that. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Rehoboth means open spaces. That's what it means in Hebrew today, open spaces. And he went up from thence to Beersheba. So if you'll remember how he first journeyed to Gerar, it's just a 1-day walk, but it's about 15 miles, not too bad. But he comes right back because there's just too much going on in the valley of Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him the same night he arrives in Beersheba, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he builded an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants digged a well. So they're digging another well. This must have been an incredibly frustrating time. They're constantly working, and I mean this was a very laborious task, still is. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, so the king makes a visit to Isaac, and Ahuzeth, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto them, Wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? He's saying, what are you doing here? You don't even like me. And Abimelech, you can tell he feels bad about how everything went down. And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee, and we said, Let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee. Imagine how important and known that Isaac must have been in order to have a king and his chief captain come visit him. The king of Gerar Abimelech actually comes to Isaac. Now that takes a lot. You have to have a lot of influence, a lot of pull. And he's coming to make amends. That thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. See, this makes me wonder if Abimelech even knew about them taking Isaac's well. But he's asking Isaac, let's keep the peace. Everybody, let's just keep the peace. Don't make war on us or anything. We don't want war with you. But Isaac's fine with it, because it says in the next verse, and he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. This is the way to treat someone who is looking for peace. You show peace. Show kindness to them. Any man desiring peace, you should have peace with all men. That's what we're commanded. Just have peace with all men. Because remember what Jesus says, Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called children of God. And they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one to another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Anytime that you see that word betimes in the scripture, it's got a few different meanings. It can mean in a good time, speedily, occasionally. In this case, I would say in a good time. They probably rose up and they were well rested, and I would say Isaac didn't push them away hastily. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, We have found water. And Isaac called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. Sheba, that word means promise. Beersheba means well of an oath, well of a promise. So these are the meanings. Very, very significant, because just that day was a promise made. And Abraham, we see that he also named a well Beersheba. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite. So he's taken on a Gentile. And Beshemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. You remember what Abraham said? Whenever you go search for Isaac a wife, do not let him marry any of these Canaanite women. Later on, we see how Moses warns, do not marry outside, be not unequally yoked. They don't believe the same way that you do. And this shows even more of Esau's attitude. How he just throws aside anything important, anything sacred. He doesn't care. He's so worldly, he rides right off of whatever his instincts tell him to at that moment, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and to Rebekah. If you'll recall how Solomon in Proverbs says that the man with the perverse mind is a shame to his parents, well, you can easily reply that to Esau, because this is a wicked man. But that is the conclusion of our study today. I'm sorry it took a little bit longer than I thought. But tomorrow, Lord willing, we will be studying Genesis 27. God of all peace and mercy be with you. Amen.